Welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this video, we're going to be doing something not exactly car working, but we're going to build a tire rack for my trailer. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the video, guys. All of the audio footage from this video got destroyed, probably because of a terrible GoPro case that I've bought. This happened to quite a few of my videos, and yeah, it just kind of ruined it. So basically I'm going to be voiceovering most of this video. I wasn't going to do this video in the first place because of this, but I figured it was kind of useful and some people might want to see it. So this is my new trailer. We're going to be building a tire rack for it today. It's a 18-foot trailer with a 2-foot dovetail, wood deck. It's got ramps that come out of the side, and it's basically exactly the way you see it now is the way I bought it. The only things that I did differently was I added that spare tire mount in the front, which just bolts onto the front there, and I also added D-rings to the front and the back. I added the D-rings because I strapped to my wheels, and when you strap to your wheels, you're supposed to draw the straps straight forward and straight backwards so you don't pull your alignment. It came with these D-pockets in the side, which we're basically going to be using to mount our tire rack and make it removable. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into some time lapse here and just kind of explain what I'm doing as we go along. So let's get started. So every trailer is going to be slightly different. We're starting out here with some 1.5 by 1.5 square tubing. I believe it's 80 wall, maybe 120 wall. It's not super thick, but it should be plenty enough to support the amount of tires. What I'm doing right now is I'm making the lower, basically mounts that are going to hold the entire tire rack. If you notice when I have those bars laid out, they go all the way to the front of my trailer, past the first D-pocket. I'm also measuring right now just a accurate distance or a estimate distance that's going to work for my size tires. That distance might be smaller or larger for you depending on the size tires you have, but I believe that my distance ended up being 19 inches. Which should be about right for quite a few different tire sizes. So I'm marking some stuff down on my paper now, just keeping track of everything so I can make the other side exactly the same. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut these lower bars, we're going to get them set up on each side, and we're actually going to weld some legs to them, and they're going to slip into the D-pockets and bolt in. So now what I'm doing is I'm measuring and prepping for the uprights that are closest to the front of the trailer. Basically, I measured this height out, and I'll go over all these measurements towards the end when I find the audio and sift through it of my terrible audio recordings. But I measured this upright out to what I think is going to be acceptable. Basically, I based that on... Now, the tire rack is removable, so I wasn't really too worried about if I had to put a longer car on, I could always take it off. But what I did want to do was I wanted to have enough room for these two boxes that I have to fit underneath of the tire rack that you'll see at the very end. They're just two plastic storage boxes, but I wanted enough room to be able to open the lids from the front of the trailer. So I gave myself enough room for that, but also not making it so high that it was going to be crazy taller than my truck. So I'm prepping the surfaces, I'm welding the uprights here now, and everything that I'm doing so far is just tacked together, and we're getting all those set up with the uprights so that we can move on to doing the next part of the trailer. In this clip, nice and simple, I am just tying the top end of my uprights together. So I'm just prepping the surfaces, putting tack welds on them, everything I'm just tack welding for right now to make sure that everything works, and then we'll final weld it at the very end. So this was one of the sections of the video where I really needed the audio to be quality, and it is not. So I'm going to go ahead and explain this to you. So you can see the lower bars that we made here with the legs that go into the D pockets. Eventually they'll get bolted in, and basically I'm explaining right now what the issue that I'm running into is. So because there is no support there at the end, the whole thing wants to tip towards the truck. So basically I have it just clamped together right now at the end so that it won't tip forward. But what we're going to end up doing is welding a small piece of metal in that very front for the tire rack to sit on. So obviously if you didn't want to have to deal with that, then you could just, have your tire rack end at the D rack and you wouldn't have that problem. So I started out with a 22-inch square on the tire rack for where the tires would sit, and I found out that that was too big. So after doing a little bit of measuring with the tires, I found that a 19-inch square for where the tire will sit is perfect for my size tires. I run 235, 40, 45, 245-ish tires on the 18-inch rim. So obviously, again, if your tires are a lot smaller or a lot bigger, you might have to make the square bigger or smaller. So I've got those set up there, and basically all I'm trying to do is make a 19-inch square. Now that front bar is angled, and I kind of like that look. It just makes it look a little bit more sleeker. The only thing that I really care about is where they intersect, where that clamp is. It needs to be 19 inches. So at this point, I'm just kind of toying with the length of the top bar and the angle of that front bar to figure out what's going to work best and what's going to look good. We're going to put another bar in the front there, and the tire is going to sit right in that area. It's going to work out pretty good. It ends up working out amazing, so let's keep going and see where we get to in the next section of clips. So here's the tire rack a little bit more complete with the front bar in, but other than that it's basically the same. You can see how the tires are going to sit in here now. And also we're going to be adding some supports on the sides and in the front just to kind of tie it all together. You can also see the box that I'm placing underneath there in that clip. And as you can see, the only thing that I really cared about for height was I wanted to make sure that that box was going to open. Here's how the tires sit in, perfectly good. As you can see, the box and the lid is going to open perfectly fine, and I actually have two of those boxes, and I end up turning them around so you face them from the front of the trailer, and it worked out absolutely perfect. So in this section of the video, I'm basically just cleaning up all of my welds, grinding all of the coating that's on the metal off. We've got everything final welded at this point, and you can see the braces that I put in. On that left hand section there, you can see I put a crossbar on the lower section. I also put a little angled piece in the front just to kind of make that look a little bit smoother. I also welded on some D-rings at the top, which I basically they're just giant D-rings that we're just going to use to strap the wheels down, which I'll explain to you in a little bit. And I welded a piece on the front to attach the straps to. So all of that got welded on, everything got final welded, it's sitting in its location right now, and we're getting ready to just clean everything up. I'm going to end up wiping it down with acetone or whatever kind of cleaner I used, and then we're going to get to painting. So in this clip, the tire rack is all done, and I'm just going to explain to you how I have the straps going. So basically, one strap for each side. It bolts down there. All I did was modify the end of the strap and drill a hole in it. It wraps over that bar and goes through the tires there on the bottom side. Now that keeps the tires pulled towards the front of the rack. It goes around that bar at the top, and then we use those D-rings that we installed to go inside the tires and wrap around to the top. The end of the ratchet part attaches to the right there, and the ratchet is right there on the top. So this works perfect. It's one strap. It's a little tricky to get the strap through there when you have 4 tires, but overall super easy to remove. You can put up to 4 tires on one side and 4 rack. It doesn't matter if they're different sizes or different shapes. As long as they fit in that groove, they work perfect. And as you'll see, they're super secure. The strap keeps them all binded together, and it also keeps them pulled towards the front of the rack. I never had any issues when I was moving this tire rack. I used it probably a half dozen times, and I never had any issues, and it worked out perfect. Enjoyed this last clip with the only piece of audio that kind of turned out. So thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.
Alright guys, so build cost and tools. So basically you're going to need a MIG welder. You could probably design this to bolt it all together. It wouldn't be as strong. You really need a big welder. I ended up going through, I don't know how much gas I went through, but it was maybe $40 worth of gas. I didn't use the whole tank. Angle grinder. Obviously you're going to need that. I use the angle grinder a lot just for grinding down areas to weld and also cutting the tubing. I did also have a metal cutoff saw, but you don't really need that. You can use the grinder, the angle grinder with the cutoff wheel. And then a framing square and a tape measure. That's really about it. Some, marker. That's really about it for materials. It didn't really take a whole lot. It's more time consuming. It did take me total probably about 4 days to build this and finish it and everything like that. If you like my channel, like, share, comment, subscribe. I don't do these videos very often. I do mostly drifting videos and working on cars, but every once in a while I throw in something like this. So if you like the channel, like, share, comment, subscribe. So now let's go over material cost. So first thing is the tubing. It's 1.5 inch square tubing, 14 gauge. I used about 75 foot of it. It's just mild steel. It was $175. That price could vary depending on where you are. Paint and primer. I went through, I don't know, like 5 cans of black and 2 cans of filler primer. That was about $45. The clear tape we put on the edges. 2 rolls of that was $15. Again, it's made by Gorilla. It's meant for some underwater tape. It's a little bit thicker than normal tape, so hopefully it works out. The 2 straps that I used, I got them from Home Depot. They're Husky straps. They're like $11 a piece. They're super cheap. They're very nice. I've been using them for a while. They do come with D-pocket hooks and regular hooks on them. I cut the regular hooks off because I thought I was never going to need them. I cut them down to size. I cut the end and drilled a hole in it. But other than that, they're really nice straps. They're worth the $11. And there's 2 of those. And then obviously we had some random bolts, which are the ones down here at the end. Some of them I had already, some of them I didn't. Also the rib nut tool. You don't necessarily have to have that. If you got the welder, you could weld nuts on the back and then just screw your bolts in the nut. The rib nut tool just makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, random bolts was like $10. So total cost here. $258, $7, something like that. A little over $250. So not too bad. There was a couple materials in here, so some grinding wheels, like I said, a little bit of welding gas. So all in all, including my other tool stuff, you're probably looking at under $300, but $250 in materials, something like that. Again, might vary depending on where you are, especially the metal costs and stuff like that. And also the size of your trailer and how big you want to make it. So anyway, that's the tire rack. And I have an event in 2 weekends, so we'll get to see in about 2 weeks how well it holds up. And I'll give an update in the comments. This video probably won't post before then, so anyway, yeah. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time.